On June 16, 2024, according to a CCTV report, many places in Meizhou, Guangdong province had heavy rainfall and partially very heavy rainfall. Many parts of Meizhou city were seriously affected by the disaster. As of June 17th, flash floods and landslides occurred in many places, resulting in 5 deaths, 15 people missing, and 13 people trapped. One video on X on June 18th reported that on June 17th, reservoirs in the upper reaches of Meizhou, Guangdong province opened their gates. It didn't notify the downstream villagers to evacuate, resulting in many deaths. Many places in Meizhou are flooded, there are power outages, buildings have collapsed, people have been crushed, there were landslides and people were washed away. According to the video, the whole village is in a sea of water. Homes are soaked in the water, and an elderly man is being carried out by rescuers and appears to be seriously injured. Many people took shelter on the roof, including children. A screenshot of a group chat showed that in the Jinxing Village Committee public service group, someone said, "My mother's body has been found, but there is no news about my father yet." Another video on X said, "The CCP has discharged floodwater again due to heavy rains in Guangdong. Flood was discharged in the middle of the night. Villagers in Jiaoling, Meizhou were still sleeping. The Changtan and Pingyuan reservoirs were discharging. The water reached 5,000 cubic meters. It washed away Shishui Bridge in Pingyuan instantly." Multiple videos show that villagers were still sleeping soundly in the night. Floodwater was already on the streets. Some people shouted over and over on the street at the top of their lungs, "Everyone, get up, there's a flood." A resident of Jiaoling County told overseas Chinese media that a local student disappeared due to floods, and the teacher even sent a message to the class group. On social platforms, some residents reported losing contact with their loved ones. A resident left a message on Kueishou saying, "Trapped in Jiaoling County for 14 hours, 1 adult and 2 children, please help." A resident from the May County area said that several surrounding towns were inundated. The water was a few meters deep, and lower parts of the area were completely wiped out. He provided a video showing the flooding streets. The first floor of stores was completely inundated, and the floodwater was close to the second floor. The old town of Meizhou is already underwater. The resident also said that the streets of Meizhou were under traffic control during a military drill in the past 2 days, but he didn't see any CCP troops coming to help. A local villager said his village was once cut off from the rest of the world. By the afternoon of June 17th, some people had entered the village through the mountain road to find out what was happening, but there was no electricity or water supply in the village, and most of the highway had been cut off by rocks and stones. At present, the rain has stopped in Pingyuan County, the water has begun to recede, and the villagers have started self-help. In this regard, one user on X said, "In history, the CCP has always secretly opened floodgates in the upstream without notifying the downstream, leaving the downstream with a lot of casualties and losses. The reason is that once notification is given, compensation will be involved, and the secret release of floodwater creates the impression that it was a natural disaster, and the downstream will take the blame for its bad luck. Last August, Drought in Hebei province suffered heavy deaths and injuries downstream. Such an evil regime is also unprecedented in human history." Another netizen commented, "Only the CCP would do this. They even harvest organs alive, treating human life as if nothing is consistent with the way they do things." Saying sarcastically, "Finally, the party is full of love, rescuing people in distress, and the people kneel to thank the party. I don't know how many lives have been lost in this flood." According to the Chinese government, recently many places across China have suffered floods, affecting millions of people. In addition to the flooding in Meizhou, Guangdong province, a large number of people have been affected in Fuzhou and Guangxi province. According to Fujian Daily, on June 18th, as of 8 p.m. on June 17th, over 500,000 people in Fujian province have been affected by the floods. Over 32,000 hectares of crops have been damaged, and the direct economic loss is over 5.6 billion. On June 18th, China's state news agency Xinhua News Agency said that according to the Flood Control and Drought Relief headquarters in Fujian province, an incomplete tally shows that 4 people have been killed in the area so far. New Beijing News reported on June 18th that on the evening of June 16th, due to the impact of heavy rainfall, a landslide occurred in a mountainous area. A local township government said a preliminary check confirmed the landslide led to 6 people being buried and missing. On June 17th, the local town news estimated the preliminary loss as follows. As of 10 a.m. on June 17th, landslides happened in several townships, resulting in 4 deaths and 2 missing persons. On June 18th, CCTV reported the damage of the flooding in Guangxi and a direct economic loss of 185.53 million yuan. The Guangxi Emergency Management Department reported that since June 17, 2024, a total of 4 cities and 10 counties in Guangxi have been flooded, and the direct economic loss of over 10.22 million yuan. Here is an estimated loss as of June 17th. According to CCTV, from June 11th to 18th, the floods in Jiangxi affected 70 counties and 481,000 people. The direct economic losses amounted to 470 million yuan. However, as the CCP has always covered up the truth about the disaster, the official figures have been widely questioned. The real number of casualties, missing persons, and economic losses could be much, much higher. According to an article published in the Journal of the International Association of Hydrological Sciences, about 140 cities in China suffered more than 3 floods between 2008 and 2010. Meanwhile, the risk of urban flooding has been increasing year by year. The average number of cities at risk of flooding was 37 in the 1980s, and it rose to 48 from 2010 to 2017, an increase of about 30%. In addition, the direct economic losses caused by flooding have been increasing between 1990 and 2016. Today, China's economic activities are highly concentrated in cities, and nearly half of the economic losses caused by floods are concentrated in cities. As of 2019, there are approximately 650 cities in China. Records from China's Ministry of Water Resources shows that between 2006 and 2016, about a quarter of the cities suffered flooding each year. Why has China's flooding problem remained unsolved? The article points out that the urban planning in China tends to focus on the construction above ground and not on the underground. In different cities, you can see beautiful buildings and an advanced infrastructure, but most people ignore the role of underground drainage systems. Moreover, the design of drainage systems in Chinese cities lacks foresight, and the drainage capacity is designed only based on the average precipitation at the time the system was built. The flood prevention standards for drainage systems in most Chinese cities aims to reduce surface runoff, which is the cause of urban flooding that occurs once every 1 or 2 years. Compared to the flood protection standards in developed countries such as the US, Japan, and France, these standards are far too low. When roads in Chinese cities are renovated, the drainage capacity is often not considered to be upgraded at the same time. Therefore, most of the drainage facilities have not been modernized in line with the development of the land surface. Some of the original facilities have even been damaged. The problem of aging pipes in the built-in drainage system is equally urgent. Flooding occurs when rainstorms occur frequently, and the volume of rainwater flowing into the drainage system exceeds the total design capacity. When the accumulation of water on the ground becomes serious and the situation worsens, the flooding will occur. On the management side, the article concludes that flood management capacity is weak in most Chinese cities. Existing management methods are relatively outdated, and there are no comprehensive urban flood management departments, real-time monitoring systems for urban flooding, and drainage facility managers. Inadequate management systems also mean that residents aren't able to receive accurate information, and it's difficult to control urban flooding promptly. Even if the drainage system is in place, there is insufficient funding for regular maintenance. In addition, China's previous land finance regulations allowed local governments to sell land use rights and earn land transfer fees as local revenue. According to the article, it is the previous land finance policy that has accelerated the loss of natural land area. Because low-lying, flood-prone land with a strong flood drainage function is selling cheaply, it is less difficult to demolish and relocate these sites, and the cost can be recovered more quickly. Cheap land has been developed aggressively, and in return, the potential risk of urban flooding has been ignored. On the other hand, the central government has not allocated enough funds for flood control, and with the increase in local government debt, funding for urban flood control will only get increasingly tight. Recently, flooding has returned to southern China. This is southwestern China. Floods are raging, but officials forbid civilians from spreading the news. People at the scene said that if they showed images of the flooding when live streaming on Douyin, they would immediately be banned for 10 minutes. At present, a famous local landmark, the Guilin Fishing Drum Heritage Base, has been flooded, leaving only the roof. Guilin is said to be China's first city to develop tourism and is known for its stunning scenery. The originally clear Li River has become muddy like the Yellow River. The roads have been turned into a sea of water. Because of the serious waterlogging, water and electricity were cut off in most areas. The high-speed rail station was flooded, the train station was shut down, and the roads were paralyzed. People have to paddle their kayaks to get around. Chinese media reported on June 21st that the Li River in Guangxi was flooded by torrential rainfall, and the reservoir level was so full that it had to be discharged, resulting in serious waterlogging in Guilin despite when rainfall had already stopped. This is the situation at the Guilin railway station on June 20th. The road ahead is also flooded, and the water is as deep as a person's chest. Someone standing in the water said it was almost 1.5 meters deep. A hospital sank into a critical situation due to water and power outages. On June 20th, about 1,200 patients and doctors were stranded in a hospital where water hadn't receded and food supplies were in short supply. When it was breakfast time, a large number of patients crowded due to food scarcity. It was chaotic for a while. Nurses had to hold on to the food to prevent looting. After the water receded, the city's streets were in a mess. Residents scavenged for food. Why are there large-scale floods in China every year during the rainy season? A netizen revealed that the floods weren't caused by days of torrential rain. Instead, the Chinese government discharged floodwaters from reservoirs without warning, causing flooding in towns and villages, resulting in heavy losses in human life and property. Evidence shows that when the Guilin floods occurred, it was no longer raining. Without any warning, 4 reservoirs in the upper reaches discharged floodwater at the same time. However, the information gap in China made it impossible for people to get the news in time, and they suffered a harsh loss as a result. From June 15th to 16th, Meizhou City was hit by a huge flood, and several reservoirs, including Changtan, discharged their flood water. Mr. Chen, a villager in Meizhou, said the disaster was so severe in the mountainous areas of the township that water and electricity had been cut off, and the water hasn't receded in some places. He said, "The water has risen to several stories high, and many buildings are damaged and uninhabitable, and many places haven't started to clean up yet. Villagers are evacuated to the county town. They now take shelter at the school." As of June 20th, close to 65,000 people had been affected, with 5 dead and 2 missing, and the direct economic loss was estimated to be about 3.65 billion yuan, or more than $500 million US. A video records the scene when water rushed into people's homes. In a video taken on June 19th, local residents quickly packed their bags and fled when they heard that the reservoirs were about to collapse.
반성합니다.
As can be seen, the flood is a result of human factors. It was caused by the combined discharge of floodwater from the Changtan Reservoir in Jiaoling County and the reservoir of the Yushu River in Pingyuan. It happened at night, and the people didn't receive advance notice as the official notice wasn't given until 10 minutes beforehand. Every year, human lives are lost due to unannounced or practically unannounced flood discharges from reservoirs at night. It seems people are indifferent till the disaster strikes, and they die quietly. Over the years, this red regime has developed a workflow. That is, when it rains, reservoirs will discharge with little to no notice, create an artificial disaster, and then blow its own horn for the relief effort afterward, reminding people to love the party. In China, small and medium-sized reservoirs are often used to make profits by local governments. They develop hydropower through the reservoirs or rent out the water space to aquatic farmers. During normal times, the water at the reservoirs is usually maintained at a high level. At the flood season, they discharge water to ensure the safety of the reservoirs. The truth is, without these reservoirs, there would probably be less flooding and less damage. A comment on X said bluntly, "Why do I oppose the CCP? It's because they never treat people as humans. They release floodwater secretly always. It was the case in Hebei last year, and it's the same case in Guangdong this year. They don't respect life. When the president of Taiwan is worried about the victims of a natural disaster, CCTV News is reporting the rescue of a pig in the flood. In their eyes, the lives of ordinary people are less important than that of the pig." On June 20th, the state-run Xinhua news agency released a series of photos of disaster relief efforts in Longyan, Fujian province. Relief workers delivered supplies, cleaned up collapsed houses, and repaired electricity supplies, etc. However, on the same day, a local victim of the disaster posted a video online revealing that the relief work stopped once the CCTV crew finished filming. He said that although the media came to report the flood the day before, all rescue operations had stopped today.
2024年
This is June 20th, 2024, the fourth day after the disaster. It's a little over 8 a.m. This location is near the town hall. Yesterday, the central media, as well as reporters from various places, came to take photos of the disaster. But today, the rescue work stopped. No need to do it. This is considered disaster relief. We are the hardest hit area of the hardest hit area. They're treating us like this. The government's gone too far. We can't work inside. It stinks inside. Such a society, such a world. Many netizens commented sarcastically that in this country, disaster victims have become props and disaster relief has become a show. The government is already in a state of non-action, lie flat. They follow what their superiors are doing. Also, local government's finances are bad, virtually bankrupt, so there is no money for disaster relief. Many places in Hebei have been warned of the strongest rainfall of the rainy season. On the evening of June 20th, a series of warnings for rainstorms, thunder, and lightning were issued affecting areas like Wuhan, Huanggang, Xianing, Ezhou, etc. From the night of June 19th to the 20th, Huangshan City in Anhui Province was hit by heavy rainfall. The rainfall exceeded 160 millimeters. Several jurisdictions experienced torrential to heavy rainfall, which caused flash floods, washing away homes and vehicles, causing serious waterlogging. Power, internet, and communication were disrupted, and people were out of contact. Heavy rainfall continues, but there is little such information on Weibo, a heavily censored social media platform in China. A staff member at a hotel said many of her colleagues were unable to go to work because the streets were flooded and cars got washed away. She said, "It's been a few days of torrential rain and the water level is very high. Many stores are flooded, schools closed, traffic disrupted, and the rain is expected to continue until early next month." A resident of Qimen County said, "In the morning, all the alleys were flooded, cars were submerged, and the water rose to nearly 2 meters. I heard that Twinchi district is completely inundated." China State Television CCTV reported that the flooding was caused by the release of water from a local reservoir. On June 19th, the water level of Fenglao Reservoir in Huangshan rose rapidly from 195 meters to 202 meters, exceeding the flood limit. At noon on June 20th, the Fenglao Reservoir increased the discharge flow rate from 400 cubic meters per second, which will lower the water level by 0.1 meters per hour. Officials said the flow rate would be adjusted by the rainfall situation. Despite the severity of the flooding, news of the flooding didn't show up on China's social media Weibo hot search list. On the homepage of Weibo, the pinned item on the evening of June 20th was the Communist Party leader Xi Jinping's speech in Yan'an, while Baidu, the Chinese version of Google, was topped by an old story of Xi's visit to Qinghai province. Netizens criticized the media for not paying enough attention to the flood disasters. The rainstorm in Huangshan was so heavy that it broke the bridge in my hometown. How come there is no media coverage? Here is a video showing the flood destroying a local bridge as heavy rainfall made the river swell. A resident of Shixian County said, "The yard is flooded, the rooms are fine for now, but the low-lying area is very serious. The roads around the area have been cut off by the water, so others can't get in and residents can't get out. We don't know when the water will recede. The river is still rising, the water started to rise today, and the situation tomorrow is uncertain. The road is flooded and vehicles can't get in." A local netizen said, "Shixian County is being used as a floodplain. It's almost flooded, but no one cares." Another person pointed out, "This is to protect Zhejiang province." While many parts of southern China have been hit by massive floods, the northern provinces of Henan, Anhui, and Shandong are facing severe drought, and many parts of northeastern and western China have been hit by massive hailstorms. But the government's response has been insufficient, leading to a great deal of frustration among the people. A resident of Bozhou, Anhui province, who goes by the alias Wang Xia, told overseas media, "Northern Anhui is in severe drought. It hasn't rained in 3 months, and the temperature is close to 40 Celsius or 104 Fahrenheit. So the crops are all drought-stricken, and corn, sorghum, and soybeans can't be planted at all, and they won't germinate. The government doesn't report on the situation and doesn't allow the drilling of wells, and the fees are very high. Working out of town is impossible as people can hardly find work. We can barely make a living." Many places in the northeast and west were hit by large hailstorms. On June 19th, large hailstorms fell in Xinjiang, where several previous hailstorms had destroyed a large area of cotton fields. Mr. Liu, a local peasant, said, "The hailstones have damaged the cotton in many places, and after several hailstorms at the beginning of the month, we can only replant and live with the weather. It's a big loss this year." Hailstorms caused severe damage to the cherry crop in Sichuan during the fruiting season, causing heavy losses for farmers. Mr. Gao said, "The hailstorm reduced the cherry production by half. The quality dropped too, so the price is affected. The economy is in recession, and the fruits are not selling. I owe the bank more than 500,000 yuan. In recent days, Yunlin City in China's southwest province of Guangxi was hit by continuous heavy rainfall, resulting in serious flooding. The heavy and prolonged rainfall destroyed the city's drainage system. Many streets were flooded and traffic was blocked.
塞车了，暴大雨了，过不去哎。
This was Yunlin on June 9th, 2024. Heavy water flooded the streets, making it difficult for pedestrians. Netizens said that the floodwaters from previous days hadn't yet receded, and now it rained again. In less than a month, Yunlin received 3 major downpours, each bringing challenges to the city. Rainwater continues to accumulate on the streets, creating deep pools of water and making it nasty for pedestrians and vehicles. The accumulation of water not only affected people's daily travel, but also caused flooding of buildings and stores in low-lying areas. Some homes and farmland were washed away, causing further loss of property. A few days ago, another city in Guangxi, Wuzhou, also received heavy rainfall, which led to a partial flooding of the city. The river swelled up. Staff from the Wuzhou municipal government said some of the small and medium-sized rivers in the area had reached beyond the alert level. No casualties are reported yet, and statistics on property damage are being compiled. However, when a reporter asked the Wuzhou Emergency Management Bureau about the casualties and the progress of their relief efforts, a female staff member replied with a stiff tone, "I can't tell you about the situation." When natural disasters occur, common folks suffer the most. A local villager posted a video saying that he woke up to find the road collapsed in front of his house, his car fell into the water hole, and his house got flooded. Other parts of Guangxi province were hit by the rainstorm as well. The streets were turned into watercourses, especially the low-lying areas. People had to wade through the flooded areas, risking their lives. Many drivers were unable to move their vehicles in time. As a result, their vehicles were submerged in the floodwaters, with mud and sewage accumulating inside, resulting in heavy losses. Farmland wasn't spared either. Some crops were submerged in the floodwaters, causing losses to the hard-working peasants and their livelihoods. Not only Guangxi, many places in Sichuan have also experienced heavy rainfall recently. This was a picture taken at a hotel in Yibin, Sichuan province, where glass doors were blown off by the violent winds and rainstorm. This is Panjihua, Sichuan province. Mainland media reported that this was the first time in decades that it had rained so heavily here. With heavy rains, it's hard to tell where the streets are. Water rose rapidly, and the fast-flowing water rushed into the village entrance, bringing garbage and debris along with it. For nighttime driving, it was even worse. The city's transportation tunnels were hit hard. Busy tunnels were turned into underground rivers. A netizen posted a video saying that he almost couldn't get home. Everywhere you look, you can see broken trees and street signs blown off by the gale. Along the way, he was scared to death, and the water on the street had already risen to the door of the car. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg of disaster caused by the rainstorm. The video shows that a big tree in a small neighborhood has fallen on the roadside after the rainstorm. One can tell how strong the gale was. Solar energy panels on the rooftops of buildings were blown away, and colorful steel tiles were all ripped off too. After the storm, the streets were left in a mess. Mud and debris were swept into the alleys by floodwaters, flooding vehicles which were covered in sludge. Some got swept into ditches and completely stuck in the sludge, unable to move. In addition to vehicle damage, there was a lot of debris on the street. Broken tree branches, washed down garbage cans, scattered construction materials, and countless waste items were scattered everywhere under the impact of the flood waters. A young man recorded this video at 2 a.m. in the morning when torrential rain poured down and the water from the overflowing river swept into the neighborhood, submerging the first floor of some buildings. He rushed through the soaked floor and out his apartment to check his car. His car was in the garage, which was flooded already. After leaving his building, he realized that the street had become a waterway. He walked carefully to avoid deep water areas and not let himself be swept away by the current. Finally, he arrived at the parking lot, full of apprehension. But luckily, he was able to drive it out of the parking lot without too much damage. The factory's premises weren't so lucky. With rain pouring in through the doors, windows, and drains, the machines and equipment were already soaked in water, and some of the low equipment was even completely submerged. The goods and raw materials in the warehouse were soaked as well. The owner of the factory said that the heavy rain caused great losses. The problem of urban drainage after heavy rain has attracted widespread attention this year. Some analysts believe that in addition to natural disasters, there are also human factors such as poor urban planning and over-urbanization adding to the disaster. On the one hand, many urban planners overly focus on economic development and land use, neglecting the protection of the natural environment and the city's disaster prevention capabilities. Excessive floor area ratio, ground hardening rate, and improper building layout have made it difficult to discharge urban rainwater. And once heavy rainwater comes, roads become rivers, parking lots become lakes, and the urban waterlogging becomes unavoidable. Secondly, the failure to fundamentally solve some long-term problems in urban planning and construction management is also a cause of floods. For example, flood storage areas and floodways have been squeezed during urban development, making it impossible for floodwaters to be discharged effectively. In addition, overexploitation of groundwater has led to ground subsidence and ecosystem shrinkage, exacerbating the impact of floods. For example, the 2021 rainstorm disaster in Zhengzhou, Henan Province. The incident demonstrated that while underground facilities can serve as water storage, they can also lead to more serious disasters if they aren't properly designed. By connecting underground spaces between buildings, Zhengzhou has created a large-scale underground space that can lead to a tragic situation of one flood for all, once floodwater enters the underground facilities. In addition, China's overly rapid urbanization, high population density, and limited land resources have led to more centralized and more dense urban construction. The large number of high-rise buildings, hardened roads, and urban design without greenbelts have aggravated the risk of urban flooding. Urban floods not only cause traffic congestion and property damage, but also threaten the lives of residents.